You know, some stories don't start with fireworks or drama. They start quietly. With love, with trust. With the kind of family you think will never let you down. But sometimes that's exactly when life decides to turn the tables. This is the story of Claire Matthews, a woman who built her entire world around her husband and 2 kids. She believed love was enough, that loyalty, care, and shared dreams would carry them through any storm. But life had other plans. Plans that would break her heart, test her strength, and turn that same love into a weapon of justice. Let's go back to where it all began. Claire lived in a small town just outside Nashville, Tennessee. Their home wasn't much. 3 bedrooms, a white picket fence, and a little garden where she grew roses and daisies. But it was theirs. She and her husband, Mark, had been high school sweethearts. They married young, moved into that house shortly after their second child was born, and poured everything they had into making it a warm, safe place. Mark was a hard worker. He owned a small construction business and spent long hours on job sites. Claire stayed home with their 2 kids, Emma, 8, and Liam, 5, and managed everything from school schedules to doctor appointments to making sure dinner was on the table every night. She loved being a mother, but she also had dreams. She wanted to start a small craft business from home, something she could do during nap times and weekends. "I promise you, Claire," Mark would tell her on the weekends, when he came home exhausted but smiling. "One day we'll get everything sorted. You'll start your business. I'll expand the construction side of things. We'll make this life even better." She believed him. Their weekends were simple. Picnic lunches at the park, long walks on quiet streets, baking cookies with the kids on rainy afternoons. At night, they'd sit on the couch with soft music playing in the background while Liam fell asleep curled against Claire's lap, and Emma giggled with crumbs all over her face. Those were the days Claire thought would last forever. Claire lived in a small town just outside Nashville, Tennessee. Their home wasn't much. 3 bedrooms, a white picket fence, and a little garden where she grew roses and daisies. But it was theirs. She and her husband, Mark, had been high school sweethearts. They married young, moved into that house shortly after their second child was born, and poured everything they had into making it a warm, safe place. Mark was a hard worker. He owned a small construction business and spent long hours on job sites. Claire stayed home with their 2 kids, Emma, 8, and Liam, 5, and managed everything from school schedules to doctor appointments to making sure dinner was on the table every night. She loved being a mother, but she also had dreams. She wanted to start a small craft business from home, something she could do during nap times and weekends. "I promise you, Claire," Mark would tell her on the weekends, when he came home exhausted but smiling. "One day we'll get everything sorted. You'll start your business. I'll expand the construction side of things. We'll make this life even better." She believed him. Their weekends were simple. Picnic lunches at the park, long walks on quiet streets, baking cookies with the kids on rainy afternoons. At night, they'd sit on the couch with soft music playing in the background while Liam fell asleep curled against Claire's lap, and Emma giggled with crumbs all over her face. Those were the days Claire thought would last forever. It didn't happen overnight. At first, the signs were small, little absences, late nights that weren't explained, distracted looks when she asked simple questions. "Mark, did you get that permit for the Johnson job?" she'd ask. Yeah, I got it." He'd nod, but his eyes would drift away. Or he'd say, "Traffic was awful, Claire. I barely got out of there." It wasn't something you question when life is busy and exhausting. So Claire didn't. Then came the phone calls. Late at night, Claire would hear a faint ring from Mark's coat pocket. He'd snatch it quickly, step outside, and whisper in a tone she hadn't heard before. When she asked later, he'd brush it off. "Work stuff," he'd say, a little too fast. It chipped away at her trust, but love made her give him the benefit of the doubt. Mark wouldn't do anything like that, she'd tell herself. He's tired. He's stressed. We all go through this. But something inside her began to quietly worry. Despite these little doubts, their life went on. Emma's school play, Liam's soccer games, family dinners, birthdays. Each event a reminder that life still had joy. Claire smiled at the gatherings, even when she felt the sting of something missing. One afternoon, while tucking Liam into bed, she caught him whispering to Emma. "I miss Dad when he's not here," Liam said softly. Emma giggled. "Me too. But Mom says Dad's working hard so we can have nice stuff." Claire froze at the door. Her heart clenched. The kids missed their father. And she missed him too. But she had always told herself that providing comfort and stability was more important than confronting uncomfortable truths. And so she smiled, kissed Liam's forehead and whispered, "He'll be back soon." On their 10th anniversary, Mark surprised Claire. He brought home flowers, sunflowers and lilies, and cooked dinner. Over wine, he toasted to their life together. "To us," he said, his eyes softer than they had been in weeks. "I don't say it enough, but you're the best thing that's ever happened to me." Claire's heart swelled. She wanted to believe every word. She wanted the man she married, the father of her children, to be the man standing in front of her. "I love you, Mark," she whispered. "I love you too," he said, reaching for her hand. It was a perfect evening. She almost forgot the sleepless nights and distant glances. Almost. But secrets have a way of seeping. Jenna lowered her voice. "Just keep an eye out. Sometimes it's not what we want to hear, but it's what we need to face." Claire forced a smile. "I know." But deep down she felt a chill. Life carried on. Claire buried her worries in parenting, laundry, and homework. The kids thrived, blissfully unaware. Mark continued to act like everything was fine. Until one day, Claire came home early from the grocery store. That's when everything changed. It was a Tuesday afternoon. The kind of quiet, warm day when the sun slants through the windows and dust particles float like tiny memories in the light. Claire had just finished checking off items on her grocery list. She was humming to herself, imagining dinner that night. Grilled chicken, roasted vegetables, maybe Emma's favorite chocolate chip cookies if she had time. But as she pulled into the driveway, something felt off. Mark's truck wasn't outside. For a second, Claire brushed it off. Maybe he left early, she thought. Maybe traffic was bad. But as she stepped through the front door, the air inside felt too still. The kids weren't in the living room watching cartoons like they usually were. Instead, the television was off. A faint scent, something floral, expensive, not hers, hung in the air like a ghost. Her stomach tightened. "Emma!" she called softly. No answer. Then she heard the faintest giggle from the hallway upstairs. Claire's heart froze. Slowly she climbed the stairs. Every creak seemed amplified. As she reached the top, she saw the door to Mark's study slightly ajar. Her fingers brushed the doorframe before she pushed it open. What she saw. It's hard to even describe without reliving it. Mark was inside, with another woman. Not just sitting awkwardly or talking. Embracing. The woman's face, pale and pretty, was pressed against his shoulder as she whispered something. Mark's eyes fluttered shut. His hand tangled in her hair. His jaw twitched as if trying to contain desire, comfort, or guilt. It was impossible to tell. Claire's mouth went dry. For a long second she couldn't breathe. Her eyes locked on the scene. Mark's eyes flickered toward her, but rather than shock or guilt, there was a flash of panic, then anger, then a hard, cold resignation. Claire backed away silently, the door clicking shut behind her. She stood in the hallway, trembling. Everything she'd built, every dinner, every bedtime story, very quiet sacrifice, all crumbling in an instant. Claire didn't scream. She didn't confront him. Instead, she sat on the floor of the hallway and clutched her knees. Her heart hammered so hard she thought it would burst through her chest. Her mind raced, looping through memories she had built over the years. Mark brushing Emma's hair before school. Mark lifting Liam onto his shoulders to spin him around laughing. Mark holding her hand, promising a future. How could any of that be real? Tears welled in her eyes, but she didn't cry. Something inside her froze. For the rest of the afternoon, she moved like a ghost. Emma and Liam came downstairs eventually, cheerful and unaware. "Mom, did you get the stuff for dinner?" Emma asked, beaming. Claire forced a smile. "Yeah, I got it all." Liam tugged at her sleeve. "Can we make cookies later?" Claire knelt down, brushing his hair back gently. "Of course," she whispered, though her throat felt tight. All day she kept up appearances, making snacks, packing lunches, smiling for the kids, but her eyes darted toward the staircase every few minutes, expecting Mark to call out. He didn't. That night, the silence between Claire and Mark was unbearable. The kids were asleep. The house was dark except for the small lamp on the nightstand. Mark sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor, while Claire sat rigid, her hands clenched tightly in her lap. Finally she broke. "Who is she?" Claire's voice shook, barely above a whisper. Mark didn't flinch. He kept staring. Claire's eyes filled with fury. "Who is she, Mark?" He sighed deeply. "It's not what you think," he muttered, though the words rang hollow. "It's exactly what I think," she snapped, tears spilling over. "You've been lying to me." "'Twas after everything, after everything." Mark rubbed his face with his hands. "I don't know what I want anymore, Claire." Claire's breath caught. "You don't know what you want." "I feel like I'm stuck," he snapped, his voice rising. "The business, the bills, the kids. It's a lot. I found someone who understands me. That's supposed to mean you throw us away." Claire's eyes burned. Mark's silence was worse than any excuse. After that night, Claire felt hollow. The next few days passed in a blur. Mark left early. He returned late. The kids remained blissfully unaware, trusting their father as always. Claire sat at the kitchen table staring at nothing, a cup of untouched tea beside her. Emma would bring her drawings. Liam would tug at her arm, wanting to play, but she could barely lift her head. Jenna, her friend, noticed at once. "You've been quiet," Jenna said gently one afternoon. "Do you want to talk?" Claire's eyes welled again. "I saw him," she whispered. "With her." Jenna grabbed her hand, eyes filled with sympathy. "I'm so sorry," she said softly. "But you need to decide what you're going to do." Claire's fists tightened. "I built this family. I gave everything," she whispered through gritted teeth. "And he threw it all away." Days later, Claire found herself in Mark's study again, unable to stay away. Something inside her screamed for answers. The desk was cluttered with paperwork. A leather wallet sat half open beside a sleek smartphone. Her hands shook as she picked up the phone. Claire sat on the floor, the phone clutched tightly in her hand. A storm raged inside her. Her first instinct was to scream, to throw everything out, to tear down the walls she built for this man. But as she sat in silence, another feeling crept in. Cold, slow-burning fire. If he could destroy her world, she would not go quietly. This wasn't about just saving her pride anymore. It was about reclaiming power. Not by screaming, not by begging, but by showing him the consequences of betrayal. A plan began forming, quiet and deliberate. The love she had once given freely was now her weapon. That night, Claire sat alone in the kitchen after the kids had fallen asleep. She traced her wedding ring with her finger, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. "I built this," she whispered to herself. And then, barely audibly, "And I'll tear it down." This is where the true unraveling begins. The discovery wasn't just a heartbreak. It was the beginning of Claire's descent into vengeance. In the next section, we'll dive deep into her emotional turmoil, how she plans her revenge, and the dangerous path she's about to take. Claire didn't sleep that night. The house was silent, but her mind roared like a hurricane. She sat at the kitchen table, staring at the dark windows where the streetlights outside threw pale streaks of orange across the floor. Her eyes were red, her hair messy, and the empty coffee cup before her had long gone cold. Her hands trembled each time she reached for the tissue box. How could this happen? Her whole life had been built around Mark, their children, and the simple dream of raising a family that felt whole. She had given up vacations, career dreams, late-night outings with friends. All for them. Every time Mark asked for help, she was there. Every time the kids cried, she wiped their tears. And now, a text message. Picture. A whisper in another woman's ear. Was that all it took? Claire's heart hurt, but beneath the pain, another feeling grew stronger, anger. Deep, scorching, relentless anger. She stood up and paced the room. "He doesn't deserve us," she whispered. "He doesn't deserve this family." But the moment she imagined leaving, packing up and walking away, another emotion struck her harder. Fear. What if he took the kids? What if he made them believe she was the villain? What if he laughed while they cried? Claire sank back into the chair, gripping the edge of the table until her knuckles whitened. She had two choices, break or fight. And deep inside, she knew she wasn't ready to crumble. Her eyes filled with tears again, but this time she welcomed them. "I fought for them," she whispered. Her mind flashed back to the early days of motherhood. Nights spent rocking Emma through fever, mornings when Liam wouldn't stop crying, and the silent battles she fought alone. She remembered the time she sat at the ER holding a scared little girl's hand while doctors worked on her. She remembered late nights lying awake while Mark snored peacefully beside her. Those memories weren't weakness. They were strength. The betrayal hurt like fire, but so did the memories that made her strong. And that strength would be her weapon. Claire knew this wouldn't be about shouting or threats. She needed facts. Proof. If Mark ever denied everything, if he tried to manipulate the truth, she would have the ammunition to make him face it. So she began quietly. The next day, while making breakfast, she pulled out her phone and downloaded a call recording app. She installed a hidden camera near the front door and another in the hallway outside his study. Her hands didn't tremble this time. Every movement was calculated. Over the next few days, she recorded snippets of conversation. She saved texts. She copied emails. There was no doubt anymore. Mark was lying. Mark was planning to leave. Mark had convinced himself he was justified. And that, more than anything, filled Claire with icy resolve. Late at night, she stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror. Her eyes, though tired, burned with something fierce. "You're not weak," she whispered to her reflection. "You're not going to let this destroy you." Her reflection stared back at her, silently daring her to break. "I'll teach him," she said under her breath. "I'll teach him what it feels like to lose everything he took for granted." A slight, twisted smile appeared on her lips. Claire knew revenge wasn't about instant gratification. Had to be slow, precise. She began writing things down. Step 1. Collect undeniable proof. Step 2. Secure the kid's trust and protect them emotionally. Step 3. Expose him at the right time when the damage would cut the deepest, not when he expected it. Step 4. Force him to see what his lies cost. The plan began to feel like armor. That night, Claire sat with Emma and Liam on the living room floor. The children giggled as they built towers out of blocks, completely unaware of the storm brewing within their mother. Claire watched them with a lump in her throat. She knew she had to protect them from this mess, not shatter their innocence. After they fell asleep, she sat beside their beds for a long time. "I'll never let you feel alone," she whispered into the darkness. "I'll fight for you." As Claire quietly collected evidence, she also began to change her behavior. She no longer called him to ask where he was. She no longer waited by the door when he came home. Instead, she greeted him politely without warmth. Mark began to sense it. "Claire, are you okay?" he asked one evening. She smiled faintly. "I'm fine," she replied, her eyes cool. He hesitated, as if wanting to confess or apologize, but she didn't give him the opening. The guilt began eating away at him. That too was part of her plan. One afternoon Claire met Jenna for coffee. Jenna's eyes were sharp, concerned. "I heard some things," Jenna said cautiously. "I'm not sure if it's my place. But are you being careful?" Claire's jaw tightened. "I am," she replied calmly. "I'm protecting my family." Jenna hesitated, then leaned closer. "Just be careful," she whispered. A few days later, Claire overheard Mark talking on the phone. His voice was hushed, secretive. "I can't keep doing this," he murmured. "I have to figure something out soon. She's suspicious." Claire's heart raced. So he suspected something. But suspicion was only the beginning. He hadn't figured out how much she already knew. That gave Claire an edge. Yet revenge didn't make her feel powerful all the time. Some nights she cried uncontrollably. "Is this who I've become?" she whispered into the darkness. "I just wanted love." She stared at the ceiling, imagining a different life. One where she walked away, healed slowly, and built something new. But each time, the image of Mark's cold eyes returning to that other woman hardened her heart once more. "I will not let him destroy everything I built," she told herself through tears. Claire's growing arsenal of evidence became extensive. Hidden cameras caught every late-night meeting. Phone records confirmed lies. Screenshots of secret chats flooded her cloud storage. Even Mark's own handwriting in notes and reminders revealed how deep the betrayal ran. With each piece of proof, Claire felt less like a victim and more like a strategist. The transformation scared her, but it also gave her purpose. After weeks of silent suffering, Claire sat at her desk one last time. She opened a blank document and typed slowly. "He will regret the day he broke us." She stared at the words for a long time. Then, with a deep breath, she closed the laptop. It was time. The plan was ready. The pieces were in place. The moment would come. And when it did, Mark's world would never be the same. The morning Claire chose to act dawned like any other, but to her, it felt like a storm had already broken. She rose before the kids, showered, and dressed in calm, neutral colors. No signs of turmoil. No trace of exhaustion. The only evidence of the storm brewing inside was the quiet intensity in her eyes. Today she would strike. Mark left for work that morning, distracted and unsettled. Claire watched him through the window as he locked the door. His shoulders tense, jaw tight. She breathed in, steadying herself. The first blow had to be clean, sharp, and undeniable. By noon, Claire had already sent a copy of the video recordings and text messages to Mark's workplace. Not through a direct accusation, but through anonymous submission to HR and the legal department. She included timestamps. She included photos. She included copies of emails where Mark had written about hiding things from his family. The company's internal investigation began within hours. Claire didn't gloat. She didn't revel in the shock that would soon spread through his office. She simply sat beside Emma and Liam, doing their homework. But inside, she felt a strange calm, as if the storm had already hit and passed. That evening, Mark came home early. His eyes darted toward Claire, uncertain. I need to talk," he stammered. Claire looked at him without blinking. "Then talk," she said softly. His face went pale. "I didn't mean for it to." She cut him off. "I know what you meant," she replied, voice steady. His mouth opened, but no words came. A week later, Claire posted a long message on social media, not naming names but telling her story. It read, "Sometimes betrayal comes from the people you love the most. It's not weakness to stand up for yourself. It's strength. Love doesn't mean accepting pain. Protect those who matter, and never be afraid to walk away from what's toxic." The post went viral. Comments poured in. Women shared their stories of heartbreak, strength, and survival. Men admitted their own mistakes. Strangers sent messages of support. The flood of encouragement gave Claire power, but also clarity. Her fight wasn't about revenge alone. It was about reclaiming her dignity. One stormy night, Mark confronted Claire one last time. His eyes were wild. "I'll ruin you," he hissed. Claire stared back with quiet fury. "You already have," she replied. "But now it's time you face the wreckage." He lunged toward her, but she didn't flinch. Instead, she calmly picked up the phone and hit record. "I'm afraid you've given me no choice," she said calmly, holding the device between them. The footage would later be used in court. Mark froze. The man who once controlled the family now stood powerless. Days later, Mark begged Claire to let him see the kids. "I want to make this right," he whispered. Claire's heart wavered. For a second she thought of forgiveness. But then she remembered his laughter with the other woman, the lies whispered in secret, the nights he left without explanation. She shook her head. "This is for them," she said. "Not for you." Claire made sure Mark's circle of friends and colleagues knew the truth, not through gossip, but through documented proof. The support network he once relied on dried up. Where once people offered sympathy and favors, now they hesitated. Mark's reputation crumbled. The isolation hit him harder than anything else. The house felt different now. The silence wasn't suffocating, it was liberating. Emma and Liam's laughter slowly returned. They began to rebuild trust with their mother. Claire's strength was no longer hidden behind polite smiles. It was visible. Neighbors whispered about the scandal, but Claire didn't care. Her mission was clear: protect her children, stand tall, and live without fear. It's been months since everything fell apart. Sometimes I still wake up in the middle of the night, heart racing, the old pain twisting inside me. But then I breathe and I remember I survived it. We survived it. Mark's gone. Not just from the house, but from our lives in ways that no apology can fix. He tried to make things right at the very end, but trust once shattered isn't rebuilt by words alone. It's earned moment by moment with honesty, care, and presence. And sometimes even then it's never the same. The kids. My kids. They are my reason for everything. Emma, who used to shrink into herself after every raised voice, now stands a little taller. She's careful with her emotions, but she laughs again. She asks questions. She wants to know everything, even the hard things. Liam, my little shadow, still wakes up some nights needing to hold my hand. But he's learning that love isn't something to be afraid of. It's something that helps us grow. We started doing small rituals to rebuild trust. Friday movie nights. Baking sessions where flour flew everywhere. Sunday morning pancake breakfasts where we'd sit around the table, sleepy but smiling. We talk openly now. Sometimes we cry. Sometimes we shout. But the difference is, we listen and we stay together. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. There are scars, deep ones, that we carry. I still flinch when the doorbell rings unexpectedly. I still get anxious when phones light up at night. But scars are reminders. They tell us what we've been through, what we overcame. I used to think being strong meant hiding my pain. Now I know strength is in showing it. It's in saying, "This hurt me," and still standing by the ones you love. Love isn't perfect. It's messy. It's complicated. It's built on trust, respect, and kindness, not on grand gestures or pretty words. I learned that love doesn't mean accepting betrayal. Love doesn't mean letting someone walk all over you. Sometimes love means protecting yourself and those you care about, even if it means walking away. I want every mother, every father, every person watching this to understand this. You don't have to stay where you feel unloved. You don't have to endure silence or lies. You are allowed to choose what's best for you and your family. Forgiveness is powerful, but it's not something you owe anyone. It's something you give when it feels right for you, not because society or guilt demands it. I haven't forgiven Mark. Maybe someday I will. Or maybe I won't. Either way, it's my choice and it's enough. Forgiveness isn't about wiping the slate clean. It's about making peace with what happened and deciding how to move forward. There's something beautiful about standing up after falling. I still remember the nights I sat on the kitchen floor, my back against the cold wall, crying silently while the kids slept beside me. I wondered if I was doing the right thing. I wondered if I'd ever feel safe again. But every time I got up the next morning, made breakfast, helped with homework, and smiled through the cracks, I healed. I didn't need to be perfect. I just needed to be present. And that's what matters most. If you're watching this and going through something similar, if betrayal, heartbreak, or loneliness feels like too much, please know this. You are not alone. You don't have to pretend everything is fine. You don't have to stay where you feel unsafe or unseen. You deserve love, respect, and peace. Take one step at a time. Speak your truth. Surround yourself with those who lift you up. And when it feels impossible, remember, you are stronger than you think. The storm passed, but it didn't break us. We rebuilt. We found strength in each other. And now, every day we live with purpose, love, and courage. This is our story.